everyone, and welcome to this introduction to robotic process automation, in which we're going to learn the fundamentals of RPA with UiPath. My name is Jan Willem-Middelburg, and I'm going to be your instructor for the next 2 hours, in which I'm going to make you slightly familiar with the wonderful world of RPA. But more importantly, I'm going to teach you some skills. So at the end of this 2-hour session, you will be able to start building your own first robot in a way so that you can start automating some of the processes within your own organization. This session is a very hands-on, very practical session, in which I'm going to show you tools, but I also very strongly encourage you to kind of walk along with me, follow the steps that I'm doing, and learn while you're actually processing this. Just as a note up front, note that I'd like to keep these sessions very interactive. So if you have any questions or you would like to have any information or you think I'm going too fast or too slow, by all means, please feel free to let me know. You can post questions in the chat, you can unmute yourself, you can raise your hand. That's all perfectly fine in case you are interested in learning a little bit more around automation. Good, just to see if everyone can find the buttons, note that there's a chat and can everyone reactions to see if they can find that. So if there's things you like or smiley faces or clap, able to find that? Yes, I see a lot of people are able to find that. Very, very good. Great, so in this next 2-hour session, we're really gonna go on a deep dive. So let me give you a little bit of an overview of what you can expect for today. In the first 10 minutes, I'm gonna make you familiar with the logistics of this course. I'm gonna show you where you can find all of your course materials, and also where you will find the files that you will need to follow along in the exercises. As I mentioned before, this is a very hands-on workshop. So I'm going to show you how do you build robots, but also have prepared some files for you in advance so that you can very quickly get started with me. A very, very brief overview about myself. So my name is Jen. I'm one of the co-founders of Cybiant. We're based in Kuala Lumpur, so that's where we're presenting the session from today. And I've been involved in the world of automation for a very long time. I started with automation best practices in the early 2010s. And I've also written books around automation, the most recognizable, and I see some people here in the session that were part of my courses previously. The most recognizable one is the Service Automation Framework. I'm nowadays a little bit more focused around the data domain. But yeah, automation is a very strong backbone of mine, and you could even say that I have an above average interest in this particular topic. I do a lot of these kinds of talks, do a lot of teaching, a lot of workshops, and if I'm not doing that, then I'm writing. So that's obviously the second main element that I'm most interested in. Good. This workshop is being provided to you by Cybiant, our company. Cybiant is a company that stands for Cyber Information Technology. We're based in KL, Malaysia, and are now operating also in Singapore and Europe through our office in Amsterdam and the United States. If you want to be in contact after us in order to kind of make the next steps with automation afterwards, by all means, feel free to contact you. We always do this session free of charge for everyone. So that we hopefully spread some knowledge around what are automation best practices and hopefully get a lot of people excited around what is the specific possibilities that you can do with automation particularly. What I've prepared for today is a small little agenda. So in the first 10-15 minutes, I'm going to make you familiar with the basic ideas behind automation. But then we're very, very quickly going to dive right into it. So I'm going to give you a step-by-step approach on how do you build your first robot. What are the tools that you will need? What is the installation? And then we're going to, in a step-by-step manner, guide you through the process of setting up your first robot. I remembered that when I got started with RPA in the first place, I found it quite difficult to kind of be guided around. And I thought at that time, well, I'm probably not alone in the people that find that difficult. So that's the whole reason that we started this workshop. Hopefully, at the end of this 2-hour session, you will know these steps and you have an environment in place with which you can, in a very easy and simple manner, start building your own automations as well. In this workshop, I'm going to go from very, very easy. So I'm going to start at the very early, easy beginnings, and then I'm going to build it up sequentially. So every step will build upon the previous one. The reason that I'm saying that specifically is that if you feel that you're lost or you think I'm going too fast, by all means, let me know, because if you cannot follow along anymore, then it will become more difficult to understand the next few steps. Again, I'm going to promise that I'm going to keep it very, very simple today. So we'll make sure that everyone is in a very comfortable and understandable pace, because we want to make it as easy for everyone to follow along. Good. I will end today's session with a little bit some use cases and some practical examples of where you can get started. Just to make you familiar, this course is structured. I've done this course a number of times before. We typically do it once every 2 months to kind of make people familiar with what RPA can be. So a couple of main, I would say, rules of engagement during these kinds of workshops. First and foremost, if you want to unmute yourself or you would like to have an opportunity to ask questions, please use the raise your hand functionality. This way I will know exactly who wants to ask a question, and I can kind of, my screen will light up and I can give some time and attention to people who want to ask questions. If you are asking questions, I'm kindly going to request that you turn on your camera, because it makes it easier to have a bit more of a conversation. If you have one, that will be greatly appreciated. At the end of this course, it's a very high pace. If you have attended all of the sessions and you did pass the final quiz, there's some quick questions at the end to kind of make sure that you pay attendance. Then you can expect a certificate of attendance, which will be emailed to you at the end of this session. Good. Before we get started, you now know a little bit around the program, a little bit about me. We have a lot of different people in the course from a variety of different locations. Let me have a quick look. We currently have around 15. So I would kindly like to request, it's too short to, in terms of time to kind of go through everyone and do formal introductions. But I would like to ask everyone to very quickly write your name, the organization you're from, and your location, so where you're dialing into the chat, so that we kind of know from each other who's participating, where the majority of people are from. So please take a quick moment to add your name, your organization, and your country in the chat, so we have a little bit more of an overview of who is actually joining the course today. Good. I see a couple of people from Baker Hughes, Kamal, Jivan, welcome. A lot of people from KL. EXC, also very good. Good. Deloitte. Aliyah from KL as well. Good. So quite a lot of more consultancy firms and also some technology firms. I see Fujifilm. Nice. Thanks, everyone. That's really good. I can see that most people are also from Malaysia, so that's really great. It means that our collaboration with MDEC worked. So yeah, thanks so much for sharing that. By all means, if you want to get into contact with any of your other people in the call today, look at their names and kind of look them up. That's also one of the benefits of this program, is to ensure that you network a little bit with other people as well. Good. Thanks so much, everyone. That's really appreciated. Good. So then a little bit of the schedule. So you will see that there are going to be 3 modules in this course. We've changed around the time a little bit. So today it's going to be a 2-hour workshop, but you will get access to all of the course materials from all of the 3 modules. Just to make you a little bit familiar, what we're going to be doing today is use a platform which is known as UiPath. UiPath, in my opinion, is one of the leading providers when it comes towards RPA technology. And in order to start automating processes, you will need to have a very good platform, because ultimately the reliability of that platform is crucial for making sure that your workflows are all running stable. Besides technology, you also need a number of different best practices. So what are best ways in which you can design workflows? What are some of the best practices when it comes towards automation? And in this course and in this workshop, we're going to be using the methodology which is called the Service Automation Framework, which is based on the book that I wrote. You can see the cover here on the screen. And if you're very interested in this, I, of course, strongly recommend you to read and purchase this book. It's available on Amazon, so if you just type in Service Automation Framework, you'll be able to find it very quickly. There are a number of different RPA platforms that are in existence. And many people always ask me, well, why are we doing the workshop with UiPath and not another kind of technology? The very straightforward and honest answer is that, in my opinion, UiPath is best in class, at least at this moment. They're also very consistently leading the way in terms of all kinds of rankings. So here you can see Gartner's Magic Quadrants. They're listed in the top right corner and are really considered the #1 company when it comes towards capability and functionality. Same is true for another research report, which is Forrester. So in the top right corner, you see again UiPath. So I kind of always like to show these slides to make you understand why is it good to start with UiPath. Well, in my opinion, and also from what we are hearing from our customers, this is really best in class kind of technology. It's not the easiest technology to master. I'm going to be quite straightforward and honest with you about that. But from an industry perspective, this is the platform that most organizations are looking at. One of the other reasons why it's a very useful platform for workshops like today is that they offer a cloud-based trial license, which is known as the community license. And that's also why I can very easily host a workshop like this for all of you today, is because you are able to create a free account. You'll be able to connect, you will be able to learn without paying any expensive license fees up front. So that's also a very good way to why you would like to get started with this. Good. Main question I like to ask, and this is hopefully you can start to understand this a little bit after the workshop today, is that what we're trying to do is make you familiar with the knowledge and systems that you need to win in the data economy. Win in the data economy is kind of the slogan of our company. Because I very strongly believe if you have that knowledge and skills around automation, then ultimately you're going to be able to outperform any form of competition that exists, because through automation, you're able to do things faster, more rigorous, and maybe even in the middle of the night when other people are sleeping. So this automated approach will give you a very, very good competitive advantage to give you information on what is it that you would need to do in a very fast and very reliable manner. Good, that's a little bit of the introduction for today. Let me pause here for a quick second to see if there are any questions before we're going to dive into a little bit of theory, and then we're going to start setting up our robots. Any questions? You can post them in the chat right now. Good, I don't see any questions coming in right now, so I hope always that means that everything is perfectly clear. Thanks so much. In that case, we're gonna continue and we're gonna move forward towards the next quick session. I see one question coming in from Sharil in the chat. Is RPA something like macros in Excel? Yes and no. Yes, there's a lot of macro functionality possible, but the domain of automation is so much larger than that. Macros are limited in terms of functionality, but you will see after today's workshop that the domain of RPA technology is so much larger than that. We can obviously do things in Excel, but RPA is platform independent. So we can automatically send emails, we can extract information from information systems, we can post bookings into SAP. So it's an approach that will go 2 or 3 steps, maybe even 10 steps further than just a macro. Hope that answers your question. Thanks so much. Good. In order to answer this question a little bit more in detail, because it's a very good one, in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to give you a masterclass or a very quick in-depth approach to learn about RPA. Because before everyone can start using the technology, it's first and foremost very, very important that you have a good understanding of what is it that we're actually talking about. What is RPA technology? What is it based on and what it's used for? So next 10 minutes, I'm going to give you kind of a master class, what you would normally kind of learn in a more certification program. And I'll focus on some of the highlights of what RPA technology is able to do. Good. Let me get started with the primary reason that RPA exists in almost any modern enterprise today. And that is because RPA is a solution to a lot of the problems and pressures that companies are facing today. All of you, or most of you, are in what I've seen in the chat, are working for technology consulting or operational companies. And there's one thing in common there is that you always need to deliver more with less resources. So this constant pressure of growth, making sure that you do things better than competitors, introduction of new technology, and at the same time doing things more efficient. I've never seen any company that says, well, next year you're going to get more money and you need to do less work, right? That's never happening. It's always the other way around. Companies need to increase performance. They need to do more work, but with less resources. And RPA is a very good solution to that answer because many of the steps that companies are taking are very repetitive in nature. Think about the fact that companies need to process invoices, or that they need to create certain reports, or that they need to import information from different data sources. Many of you who are in the session today will have very, very similar tasks which you are performing on a daily or weekly basis. So what RPA is enabling you to do is basically, from a large scale business perspective, looking at how can we increase revenue and lower our costs. So how can we do things more efficient? Secondly, how can we make sure that we do work better for customers? So increasing customer satisfaction. But at the same time, we also want to make it easier for people to work and at the same time reduce our compliancy risk. And I will show you in the next few minutes how RPA provides an answer towards some of those solutions today. And before I do that, let me give you a quick overview of some of the reasons that we're going to be looking at that. We look at technology and how it's been evolving in the last decades. We see that there have been these major disruptions. Common disruptions are obviously the internet, where we started to communicate with everyone, then the devices, the fact that everything has moved towards mobile, then towards cloud solutions. And it's my very strong belief that automation is going to power this next wave, because it gives us the opportunity to do things so much faster, cheaper, and with way better accuracy than ever before. What I always like to say is that robots don't make mistakes. They are always, if you say that a robot So from that perspective, it makes it easy to get started. A little bit around the why. Now let's see how that can be achieved. If I would need to define what RPA is in a very straightforward and very simple terms, it is that robotic process automation gives you the opportunity to mimic human action. And you see that at the top of the slide when it uses the word emulate human action. What you need to think about as a robot is basically a person that will do everything that a person does behind the computer. So think about the work that you are doing behind your computer screen every single day. RPA is looking at that work, what are the key things that you're doing, and then is going to build an automated workflow in order to support that. That automated workflow will give you the opportunity to follow along what the computer is doing, but then speed up that process. RPA is tremendously successful because it is not requiring a significant level of knowledge around scripting, does not require a very in-depth IT understanding, and more importantly, it works across every kind of platform. Really doesn't matter what kind of technology stack you're currently having. If you're using SAP, that's perfectly fine. If you're using with Monday, that's fine. And if you are using clouds from Azure, you can integrate. If you're using clouds from Amazon, that's also perfectly fine. So it's really a non-invasive approach that will do exactly what it is supposed to be doing across all of your applications. And I will show you that in a second. So if we look at some of the official definitions, basically what RPA is around, it is commercial off-the-shelf technology that is enabling you to automate repetitive tasks. That's what we're going to be looking at significantly. How do you do that, and how are you going to make sure that this can actually be done? In order to understand that a little bit more in depth, let's look at some of the main key features and main characteristics. In RPA, what we're going to be doing is tracking and tracing exactly what a person does behind a computer screen. So if you are waking up in the morning, you're turning on your machine, you're going to go through your emails, and let's say that you're working in finance, and then you're going to extract all of the invoices that came in during the last 24 hours. Then you're going to open up a accounting system, let's say that that's SAP. Then you're going to be uploading all of those invoices and create bookings. For a very simple process, but something that many or almost every large company does today. What RPA is going to do is going to show exactly what are the steps that we're going through. It's going to look at what are the technologies that you're using. So are you using your Outlook, and are you using, let's say, SAP? But also it might be that you're using very simple applications like Excel. So we will track and trace exactly what are the steps you're taking, and then we will build that into a workflow. And that's the main thing you're going to learn today. What are some of these key activities that are then being done? Well, on the next slide, you see some of the 8 most common approaches that are being taken and that software robots can very, very easily do. And when I say very easily, I mean literally within milliseconds. Software robots have the ability to log into any application. And when I say any application, I literally mean everything that's installed on a machine can be accessed by a robot as well. Robots are also very good at moving files and folders, creating new documents, sending them over towards anyone that you would like to receive it. They can very easily read data from and to databases. They can automatically go through your email and read and open all of your attachments and, for instance, save that into different files and folders, or to make medium to very advanced kind of calculations. So to give you some examples of projects that would be very useful is the example, a whole box of invoices every single day, and you would like to automatically have all of those for making sure that a new employee starts, so within the HR domain. Or, for example, if you want to make sure that there's automated security monitoring. All of those are use cases that you can think about when it comes towards automation. In summary, RPA is going to be very, very useful for everything that you are doing and which you're doing more than once, or typically we say that that's repetitive. There's a lot of different work that you need to do on an ongoing basis, then that's where RPA robots can really help. So let's look at some of those industries. I've been in the RPA domain, as I mentioned, for a very long time. And what we typically see is that companies that are starting with RPA have challenges in one of the 5 domains that you see here on the screen. It's either finance, supply chain, IT, HR, customer service. Most cases. I'm not making exceptions, but this is where the majority of questions are coming from. And the reason for that is that these are the particular departments which do a lot of repetitive work. If you think about finance, they need to make sure that every single month all the accounts are being put in order. They need to process invoices, they need to make sure the payments are being done. And the steps in that process are always very, very similar. Same is true for logistics and supply chain. If you're sending and shipping things to different companies or back and forth, then that means that you will need to have very accurate information around that. And I can make the same case for IT, HR, and customer service. The thing that all of these particular workflows have in common is that you typically trigger them a majority and many number of times. Good. So hopefully when you see this list, you think, hey, I'm in this specific field, and it always also answers the question, is RPA something that could help my particular organization? Good. I'm going to slightly move towards one or two more technical understanding slides so that you understand that before we're going to start with the building the robot by yourself. Good. One key technical thing that I would like you to understand is the difference between attended and unattended robots. The best way to explain that is if you look at this slide. So we typically move from left to right within this particular area. Good. Let me show you the situation in which there are no robots. That's when we say that the human does everything. So basically, it means you fire up your computer in the morning, you start doing all kinds of activities, and that's basically your work. That is where there's no robot in place. Then within the RPA domain, there are two ways in which people can use robots. And typically, we go from left to right. Companies that just get started typically use what are known as attended robots. An attended robot means that you as a user are in charge of what the robot is doing. It's basically an assistant, but then on your computer. And you could say to the robot, when you start your computer in the morning, say, well, go through all my emails and, for instance, extract all of my attachments. Or for instance, I have here a list with 100 new suppliers, or automatically put all of them into the database. If that's the kind of work you're doing, we are going to be using an attended robot. Because an attended robot is going to be able to work with you simultaneously. Some other companies want to take that 2 or 3 steps further, and they would like to run workflows that automatically complete work, let's say, for instance, in the middle of the night or across the entire organization. If that's the case, we typically recommend to start using unattended robots. So an unattended robot will not need any human supervision. It can just start based on any kind of trigger. So for instance, let's say that it becomes exactly 3 o'clock in the morning. Then we could say that the automated unattended robots will need to start working. Most companies are going through a journey when they're from left to right, as you can see right here, when they start with no robots at all, and then in a step-by-step function, slowly move towards fully unattended parts where they have a lot of workflows that are running in the back end. In all honesty, that's a bit of a journey. What I'm going to be doing for today, and just this is to kind of give you the bigger picture of what the workshop today is all about, that I'm going to learn you how to build an attended robot. So don't worry, there's nothing that is out of control or that's going to run in the background. You will always be in control of the robot that you're going to be building. But before we dive into that, it's always good to kind of see the bigger picture and the journey that most companies are going through. Good. So to summarize this second section, where I've given you a little bit of a crash course around RPA theory, I promise I will keep the theory until this moment. Think about what will be good use cases for your organization. And a couple of critical rules that you can think about. Everything that is highly manual or repetitive in your organization is a good candidate for automation. So if you are tasked with a particular task every single day, or let's say multiple times a week, then that is a very good candidate to get started with automation. Generally, processes that are the same every single day are called rule-based processes, and those are very much suitable for automation. So think about that and think about what is it where you could start using automation in your company today, or maybe right away after this workshop. Good. And that, my friends, already concludes our second mini module. Let me get started, or before I move towards the next session, just wanted to ask if there are any questions. This was the theoretical part. The next hour, hour and a half, we're going to spend completely on the actual building and understanding how to create robots by your own self. Any questions? Let me have a quick look at the chats. So far, so good. That's really great. Good. In that case, if everyone's good, I'm going to first and foremost share you a link with all the files that you're going to need for this particular session. So you have all of the course materials. You will also get all of the slides that I'm presenting today. So it's going to be a very useful resource for you. Let me share that in the chat right now. Note that in this link, you will get all of the files that I'm presenting. So if you want to review anything later onwards, that's perfectly fine. And there's also some of the workflows that you're going to be building. So if later onwards you thought we were going too fast, or you would like to do it a little bit more step by step, then that's also perfectly fine. You have all of the files in these folders as well. Note that the link to these materials is going to be valid for 60 days. That's a security setting that we have. So I'm strongly encouraging everyone to download everything that you're seeing in this folder, so you have it in a local drive somewhere, because after 60 days, this link is not going to be valid anymore. Good, I see some questions coming in. So yeah, here I see a question from Jivan. UiPath is considered as an attended robot. No, it's both. So within the UiPath platform, which is quite extensive, you can use both. So you can set up either attended robots, or you can structure unattended robots. I'm going to be showcasing both in this particular session, but the main focus for today will be on using attended robots. That makes sense? Good. Yeah, very good. In that case, let me go through the steps with you in order to start understanding how do you set up and structure set up the environment within UiPath. I'm going to try to take it as slowly as possible. I'm also strongly going to encourage you to follow along with me. And if you need more time or you are stuck somewhere, please let me know, because the next 10-15 minutes is very important in order to fully understand and setting up the system itself. So let's get started. Good. In this module, what we're going to start with is learning how to set up an RPA environment. So the way that we're going to be doing that is by downloading the UiPath software, which is called Studio. And then we're slowly going to get started with building your own first robot. So that's what we're going to be doing in this first, I would say, very basic module. So please try to take a moment to follow along, because this is going to be very important for if you want to start building it, you first need to have the software in the first place. Good. Just to give you a bit of the bigger picture, within the whole domain of RPA, and I could literally talk about this for days or hours, there are a variety of different things that you can or are able to learn. First of all, note that if you look at the basics of RPA environments, we don't have time to go into architecture today, but if you look at the very, very basics, then from a technology point of view, you need to have a particular application in which you're designing your workflows. And within UiPath, that product is called Studio. More specifically, we're going to be using the lightweight version of Studio, which is known as Studio X. Reason why I always recommend everyone to get started with Studio X is because it's very intuitive. The graphics and the graphical interface is very easy. It's a great way to get started without knowing any kind of IT or scripting. This is just drag and dropping. Technically, in order to run robots, you also need to have orchestration that is going to make sure that your robots are running. I'm not going to cover that today, but what I'm going to cover is how do you use attended robots within a particular workflow. So that's what we're going to be looking at in the session today as well. Good. Let's get started with understanding some of the basics in order to structure it and setting it up. First and foremost, know that you will need to have a number of different system requirements. So what we're going to assume in this setting is that you have availability over a particular machine, and that machine will have at least 4 gigabytes of RAM. And here you see also the minimum thresholds in terms of CPUs. In the workshop, I'm also going to assume that you have an active version of Microsoft Office, because I'm going to be showing you how do you transfer data from and to Excel sheets, or how you can use Outlook to automatically download all kinds of information. Note that you cannot use or you cannot install or create workflows on a phone or on an iPad or a tablet in general. So if you're joining with a phone or with a tablet, I strongly encourage you to switch towards a desktop or a laptop, because in order to install Studio and start working with it, you need to have something of a bigger screen. In all honesty, it's also not possible to kind of do that on a mini screen, because you will see that there's quite a lot of buttons and there's quite a lot of things to have in place. Good. I see a quick question. Wow, some attendees may have problems downloading the 1 GB Studio X installer quickly. Yeah, that's for sure. But that's also why at the end, I'm going to give everyone, after the first hour, I'm going to give everyone a 5-minute break, so that if there is some time that people need for installation, then you could use the remaining of the break to actually do that. Okay, but yes, that's a very fair point. Good. Let me get started with you very quickly and showcase you what are the steps that you would need to take. First and foremost, you will need to set up an account within UiPath itself. So in order to do that, you need to create and start setting up a cloud account. You will see the link at the bottom of the slide. I'm also going to put the link into the chat right now, so you can very quickly click on that. And that will bring you towards a browser where you can start creating an account. Give you a quick moment to do that, and then we're going to go towards the next segment. Good. Let me know as soon as you're ready with that. Good. That will bring you towards the screen of implementation. Let me quickly start sharing my screen right there. Good. Let me show a quick moment when it starts. Good. Is everyone able to see my browser? If you can do a quick thumb. Yeah, that's great. Good. So this will bring you towards that. I'm going to be logging in with my Microsoft account because in our company, we have coupled our RPA environments with UiPath to our Microsoft suite. It's not necessary to do that. So if you're not quite sure what kind of enterprise license you have, what I'm strongly going to encourage you is to just continue with email. For the sake of the example, I am going to move along with Microsoft. So let me show you what to do. So you will sign in right here. I'm going to sign in with my account because it's already Microsoft enabled, but it's the exact same steps. And then I'm going to go towards the main environment. Oh, let's see, my password is not correct. Give me a second. Good, and that will bring us towards this particular screen. And there you will be able to start downloading the specific set. So give me one quick second to put that on the screen and show you the steps that you need to take right then. Good, as soon as you're logged in, you're gonna go towards you will see something that looks like this. You sign up with your account, which is what I just showed you. You see the screen? Yes. And then as soon as you're logged in, you're gonna see download Studio or Studio X. It's gonna be right on your main screen as soon as you log in, and it will show you either at the top, it depends a little bit on your browser settings, or all the way on the right. So you need to find a button that says, can I download Studio or Studio X? That will be a particular package, which is going to take you 1 or 2 minutes to download. And as soon as you've done that, then you need to start installing that package. Let me show you some of the settings that you would need to have in place in order to do that. As soon as you start to install UiPath, it will prompt you with a particular message box. And really pay very close attention to the steps that you would need to take in the next few minutes. Because if you don't do this well, then it's going to either request you for a credit card, or it's going to request you to enter a license key, which all of you won't have at this particular stage. So as soon as you start to activate, what you would need to start activating is what is known as the community license. The community license will give you the opportunity to play around for free. There's no license keys required, and this will remain valid so as long as you don't use it for any internal commercial purposes. So this is really to start learning. It's a great way to get started. You get the same kind of functionality, but note that this is a free license and you cannot use it for any company or corporate work. Okay, so that's the first button that you would need to click. The second button that you then would need to click is that it's going to ask you what kind of profile do you would like to have. Here you can choose between Studio, Studio Pro, or Studio X. So this is the particular form or particular aspect that you are going to be using within the domain. In this workshop, we're going to be using Studio X because, as I mentioned before, that's the easy way to get started. It's graphically very good, very easy, and this is going to give you an overview of the main functionalities that you will need for this workshop. So make sure that as soon as you install it and you're prompted with this particular note, that you're going to get started with installing Studio X. Okay. And then last but not least, they're going to ask you for what kind of preview option or the stable version. It's since you are going to be using this for specific practice purposes only, you can just go ahead and use the latest and greatest updates because from the workflows that you're going to be building today, the stability doesn't really manage so much. So use the preview version, that should be perfectly fine. Good, so these are the 3 key configurations. The most important configuration, as I mentioned, is that you're choosing the community edition. Otherwise, you're going to be asked for a credit card very, very quickly. Good. Can I do a very quick check if everyone is able to follow along so far? Yeah, everyone good? Great. Then as soon as you start to do that, and as soon as you have that in place, what you will start to see is that you have in your office, if I open that right now, if I type in here Studio, you will see a new app which is called UiPath Studio. So let me go ahead and open that for a second. And that will start to open the application in which you can start building your robots. That's the tool that we're going to be needing and the tool that we're going to be using throughout in the next hour when we're actually going to start building our first robots together. Okay, and it should look something like this. So it takes a moment to start and load the application. I think you will start seeing it coming up on the screen. And that will automatically bring me towards the next step. So let me quickly change here towards Studio X, because I'm now in the regular Studio. You don't need to do this if you've done the installation correctly. But what you should start to see is that as soon as you open UiPath, that the color should be kind of greenish. You saw previously on my screen that the whole color was light blue, which is an indication that you're in Studio. But in Studio X, it's kind of a blue-greenish kind of color. You can also check whether you have correctly installed Studio X is if you go to the bottom left corner, which you're seeing right here. There it should say Studio X and then Community License. If you see Studio X and Community License, that is a sign that you are on the right track and that you have correctly installed the installation steps that we talked about so far. Good. Let me pause here again for a quick moment to see if everyone is with me so far. So in summary, what we've done so far is we've created an account on the UiPath cloud platform. The second step is that you downloaded the Studio suite, Studio X. And then the third step is that when you open Studio for the first time, you're going to be asked for a number of different configurations. And the configuration that you need to choose today is known as Studio X in the Community Edition. Good. Let me see if there are any questions or comments. No comments going, so I hope that that means that everyone is good so far. Yeah, very good. Good. Then before we get started, and after this, I'm going to give everyone a 5-minute break in order to kind of get up to speed or to make sure that you know exactly what is happening. The next configurations, let me go back to the PowerPoint, are the following steps, and these are going to be very important. So in this particular session, we're going to be using two main tools to kind of show how you transfer data between these particular tools. And the tools that we're going to be using are Excel and a browser of your choice. So what you need to do first is you need to go towards tools. So let me go switch back again towards UiPath Studio. On the left-hand side, you see tools. And under tools, you will have the opportunity to install your Excel add-in. You will see that I already have it installed. So for me, what I can do is I can click uninstall, but then it will uninstall. So I'm not going to do that. But if you have a blue button right here that says install, you need to install the Excel add-in. That's the first step that you would need to do. So make sure that your Excel is basically what this does is that it automatically couples your Excel towards UiPath, and you're going to be able to transfer data back and forth. The second thing that you need to do is choose a browser extension. In this course, I'm going to be using Chrome. You might have already seen this. I like Chrome because I think it's the best browser there is. But I know that other people have different opinions. So if you prefer Firefox, if you prefer Edge, it works in exactly the same way. So depending on your preference, depending on what you would like to use or what is installed on your machine, select the browser of your choice by installing the browser extension that you'd like to work with during this workshop. So in my case, I have installed Chrome. I've also installed Edge for some testing and other use cases, but in this demonstration today, I'm gonna be using Chrome as the main method and the main application that we're gonna be working with. Good, so that's what you're seeing in the remaining of the slides for this particular module. Let me put this on the screen again. So you will need to first and foremost install the Excel add-in and then select the browser of choice. As soon as you've done that, you're basically ready to get started with building your first automation. So as soon as you're ready with that, you can start and open a new blank part. So you click on the start button right here. And then we're going to start with creating a new project. We're going to get started with a blank project. So we're going to start from scratch. And for the sake of the demo today, you can give it a nice name. So I could say my first RPA robot. It's always good to kind of give it a description. So I will say demo for today. And then you can select where you would like to save it. Since I'm doing a lot of demos, I have a folder specifically on my computer for demos, which I kind of can throw away afterwards. So here you see a lot of projects that we've done already. So I'm going to select this folder because then afterwards I can clean everything up. But you can save this project anywhere on your computer that you like. So that's completely up to you. You can specify this wherever you are most comfortable. Okay, so then you click create, and that will bring you towards basically the design screen. And in this design screen, you will start to walk along with me in order to start building your first robots. And the screen will look something like this. Good. Are there any questions so far? Are there any obstacles? Are there any people who have difficulty with installing or specific questions up until this stage? Is everyone with me following along so far? Good. Can I get either a thumbs up or something like a smiley or so? So yes, everyone is good. Not done yet. Yes, following. Good. I know that for some people, it will take a little bit of time to download everything. So that's also why in this 2-hour workshop, I'm always kind of going for a break of 5 minutes in between. It's just a very short break, but this will give everyone the opportunity also to make sure that they're on track and can follow along. So this is the first form of automation. What I will do when we get back is that we're going to switch and I will show you how to start building your first robot. So it's now exactly 2:53. So let's break for 7 minutes and I'm going to start again sharp at 3 o'clock. So take a moment to finish your installation. If you want to get a quick drink or something like that. And we are going to start again in 7 minutes from now. And then I'm going to, hopefully everyone has their environment set up. And we will start right away with learning how to build your first robot. Good, I will see you back in, now it's only 6 minutes left. So I will see you back in 6 minutes. Good, welcome back everyone. I hope everyone had the time to install Studio and to get along. I saw that in the chat, there's still a couple of people who for which it's taking a little bit longer. So I will try in the first few minutes to kind of go through the next steps slowly so that as soon as you have everything up and running, then you can follow along. The first couple of steps are relatively simple, so it's going to be not too difficult to catch up on that if you are not ready yet with installing the software. Good, for the sake of time, because we only have 1 hour left, I would like to get started with this. So that we can at least make the first couple of steps in order to understand that. Note that from a materials point of view, if you think back about the SharePoint folder that I shared with you, is that we're now going to switch towards the second module in this course, in which you're going to learn to build your robot. So let me share my screen again, and then we're going to get started first with some slides to understand the project that you're going to build. And then we're going to be doing this in a step-by-step basis. I'm going to share my entire screen so it becomes easy for everyone to follow. Good. So the moment is finally there where we're going to learn how do you build your first robot. And for this particular section, we're going to start with a very simple, very light kind of project, which is going to give you an idea first and foremost of how does it work and what the steps are. And in order to do that, there's a very famous, I would say, first kind of step to kind of learn this, and that's the project that we're going to be doing that, and we typically refer to this as the Unicorn Project. There is a particular website which will enable you to do this. This was also the first automation I ever learned years ago. So I thought it would be always nice in terms of a demonstration to kind of use this very silly example to explain to everyone what is the basis of automation. So in terms of the most useless thing that has ever been built on the internet, there is an actual tool that is called a unicorn name generator. And there is an actual website for that. You can see the link here on the screen. Let me show you this link in real life. So you will see, and I will type it in the chat for everyone as well, because that makes it easy to follow along. Good. If I go to any browser and I type this in, what you will start to see is that there's a very simple generator. And basically what this website does is nothing else than if you type in your name and type in your day of birth, it will generate some kind of a funny unicorn name that you will see here on the right-hand side. If I type in a different name and I type in a different date of birth, I will get a completely different name. So very simple application, but from the scope and from the perspective of automation, I want you to start thinking about what if this was an application that I would use for my work. So and the reason why this is useful is because in many applications that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, there will be data that you would need to input, and there will be data, which you see on the right-hand side, that you need to retrieve from an application, like for instance, a final report or prediction or something like that. So what this website will very easily do is data input and data output. That's the main things that you're going to be seeing in this particular example. Good, let me go back to the slides to kind of show you the rest as well. Good, the second main thing that we're going to be using in this particular demonstration is Excel. Excel is probably the most used application still in business today. And what we're going to be doing in Excel is we're going to be getting data out of an Excel sheet. We're going to be putting that into the browser. Then the browser will do some kind of calculation, in this case, calculate what is your unicorn name. And then that information is going to be put back automatically in the Excel sheet and going to be saved somewhere. Again, very, very simple process. But if you think about the number of people that on a daily basis are copying and pasting values between different programs, that's a lot of hours that people can save. So that's why this is a really good first step to get kind of familiar and get started with RPA in the first place. I know this is not really a business example, but trust me, after this, I only have more business related examples. So it's kind of easy to start with a fun and lightweight kind of example. Good. So in the real world, what we would do is that we would create a process flow, which we call RPA process design. Because this is a very, very simple project, I've just kind of tried to visualize it right here. So what is the assignment in this case? The first assignment is that you would need to make sure that you have an Excel sheet and that Excel sheet is provided to you in the RPA SharePoint. You can also quickly create it yourself because it's nothing else than just 2 or 3 files. And then based upon that Excel sheet, we're going to be putting your name and your date of birth into the browser. Then you're going to click the button that says Get Name. It will generate a unicorn name, and then it will put that into the Excel sheet back again and automatically save it. That's in very simple steps, very layman terms, the process that we're going to automate today. Normally, you would need to do this manually, but this would be the steps to go through. Good. I see a very quick question in the chat. This is, let me give you a quick example. Somebody is asking, why don't I see Community Edition? That's a good question. Try the sign-in option. That would be my first best guess for Jana tool. Okay. Good. If the problem persists, I'm going to help you out in more detail, but try to see if you can get this started in the first place. Good. Are there any questions around the process? Also, let me take a quick moment to show you what the Excel sheet looks like. So the Excel sheet itself is available in your SharePoint folder. So that's where you can find it. But the Excel sheet itself will look something like this. So it just has 3 columns and it has 2 rows, so very simple. There is input data, which I've labeled in green. In your basic Excel sheet, it will not have any color. It's just for explanation and because it makes it easy. And then there is an output field that's going to be in yellow. So this is the Excel sheet that you're going to need. The only thing that you need to be very mindful of is where are you going to save that Excel sheet. So for the sake of the example today, I'm going to recommend that you save it on the desktop, because that's a place where everyone can find it very easily. But you do need to know where will this Excel sheet be stored on your local machine. Okay, so that's the process that we're going to be doing so far. Good. To give you an example, so to kind of summarize what we're going to be doing. So first of all, we're going to be opening up the Excel file. Then we're going to go towards a browser. So we're going to, in this case, open Chrome, and we're going to go towards the link that you're seeing right here. Then we're going to type in the information from Excel into the sheet, into the browser. We're going to click the button automatically, and then we're going to get the name that is coming out of the browser, and we're going to put that automatically into the Excel sheet and then save it. You will start to see that as soon as you've done this, what would normally take you probably 30, maybe 40 seconds to complete this, copying, pasting, running, and then putting it back and saving it. Probably a process that would take you 30, 40 seconds. You will start to see that a robot can do that in less than 1. So here you start to see already a kind of a major form of efficiency in order to do this. Good. I'm going to get started with the live demo. So I'm going to switch towards UiPath Studio. So try to follow along with me. I'll try to deliberately do it very, very slow. But if you have questions, and again, or if I'm going too fast, just hit the brakes and try to ask me questions, or if I can do something again. I know the first couple of times you're going to do this, it's quite difficult, or to make your way around it. But trust me, we've all been there. The whole purpose of today is to really make you more comfortable with using this. Good. So let me get started with this. And in order to do that, we're going to go back towards my UiPath Studio environment. Good. Before I start with that, let me kind of show you the basics of the whole environment. At the top, which we typically refer to as the ribbon, you're going to see some of the basic elements. For today, the main thing that you need to remember is that you can save your project right here. And the other button that is going to be very important here is the Run button, because through the Run button, we're actually basically instructing the robot to get started. This is the reason why we refer to it as an attended robot, because a person would still need to click the Run button right here. Okay. On the left-hand side, we see all of the activities. And the activities are the things that we're going to be using to build our workflow. In UiPath, most of the common activities are already predefined. So it means you can use them in any way that you see fit and in any way that you actually like. You just need to find the right kind of activities and then configure them. So for instance, if you want to open up a browser, then you would use this particular activity, use browser, and then you drag and drop it here onto the main screen. Which automatically brings me towards the second main panel that you're seeing here is that you're seeing the main screen, which is where the visual display of your automation is going to be projected. If you click delete on any of the activities, they're gone again. So it's very easily to kind of get started, add activities, or maybe delete them with just the stroke of a button. Again, note that nothing is running, so you can use this, can play around with it. It does not going to mess up your computer. It's just here you can start working and setting it up. So I want you to think about the workflow again, because good RPA design is always around understanding the workflow first. And in this particular example, we're going to get started with retrieving that Excel sheet. And in order to do that, there's a very simple and one of the very commonly used examples, and that is use Excel file. So I'm going to drag and drop that into the screen, and it's going to look something like this. Here you will start to see that the first activity in our workflow is to use an Excel file. And you will start to see right away that there's a red exclamation mark, because it means that if I were to run this automation right now, it's going to give me an error. And the reason that it's going to give me an error is because we have not indicated which particular Excel sheet do we need to open. So in order to do that, we're going to select an Excel file. And in UiPath, this is all visually done very well. So you don't need to, you can type in the path, but the easy way is to just click on this folder, and this will open up a file browser, just like anything else, any other application. And here you can start to look for the file. So the file on my computer, I've saved in the demo file. So the file name is, in this case, unicorn name. And in this, so I'm specifying the path right here, saying, well, you need to open this. It gives me a warning message now that the file is in use. So let me kind of quickly close that. You cannot use an open one, obviously, because there's changes. And let me now open it. Now it's not going to give me this warning message. And then it is going to be there right away. Good. Everyone following with me so far? Good. I just need to plug in the table. Yeah, good. Everybody's saying yes. So first part that we're now doing is that we're saying use our Excel file. The second step in our workflow, if you remember correctly, is that we said, well, then we're going to go to the browser. We're going to be using the files and the information from this Excel sheet into the browser itself. So what we're going to be doing is, you see that their next activity is going to be done inside this canvas. You can also do it later onwards, but we would like to use the browser whilst the Excel sheet is open. Why is that the case? Well, later onwards, we also want to save information back into that Excel file. So it would not be very useful if we close the Excel file again, because it means later onwards, we're going to need to open it up again. So the way to do this is that we're going to use the application and browser part that I used earlier. So we're dragging and dropping that right into the center right here. So in the second step, we want to open the browser. And as you might remember, we want to open the browser towards this particular website. And this is what we're going to be doing. You could configure that manually, but the nice thing around UiPath is that you can also use very simple clicks. So here at the part, it says indicate the application that you would like to automate. So the thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this. and it will automatically open up my browser. You will see that it will start to become green. So I will click on it. And what UiPath will automatically do is that it's going to find that this is your browser. And it's also even going to make a very quick screenshot of the page that it's going to open. And that will basically automatically extract which link would we like to go to. And you see that he has done this correctly right away. It will automatically find that this is the browser. Note that there's all different ways in which you could configure this by yourself, but the easy way is just to click the button, select the application you would like to automate, and this will immediately give you kind of a nice visualization of what we're actually doing. Good, everyone with me? Maybe some thumbs up or smileys. Good. I hope that means yes. Good. So who remembers the next step that we're then going to do? Can you type it into the chat? So if I were a human being and I have now opened my browser, the next step that I would take is that I'm going to be typing my name into this particular field. So as a person, that would take me a couple of seconds. I would type in my name right here. So that's the next step that we're going to be doing. So in UiPath, this is done with a very simple activity, which is known as type into. So let me switch back towards the screen. And the next activity that I'm going to be doing, I can either find it right here, or I can click. Maybe it's good to show this so you become slightly more familiar. What you could also do is just click the plus sign right here. And in this case, I'm going to need a type into. That's a particular activity that's already predefined. And if I click it right here, I can go and do that right away right here. Alternatively, I could type into on the left-hand side, and I can again drag and drop it onto the screen. Those are the exact same ways in order to get the exact same result. Good. So the question then becomes, where are we going to type it in? And this is the beauty of automation, is that it's going to be able to automatically deduct which fields you would like to type it into, and it does that based on UI elements which are on the screen. So again, what I just need to do is I just need to click the button right here. That button will bring me towards the page that I've opened so far, and you will start to see as soon as I start to go with my mouse around that it's detecting all kinds of different elements on my browser. All of these, in technical terms, are elements in which your browser has been composed. We call that UI elements. That's also why the application is called UiPath. But the one that we're interested in is obviously the one where you're typing your name. So if I go with my mouse over that, then it will start to kind of become green. And the only thing I just need to do is click. Good. So then it will automatically do that. The second step that UiPath will do is create an anchor. An anchor, you can see it right here with the blue literal anchor sign, is that it's going to relate that input field to something which is static on the screen. And in this case, that's the question, what is your name? The reason that UiPath does this, and other RPA solutions as well, is in today's day and age, we have a lot of different things that move around. So if you're on a mobile phone or on an iPad, your screen can jump around quite quickly. So through the anchor, it can still find the right input field, even if that input field is now below the name, because it relates this input field towards this target. So as soon as that anchor has been specified, you can click the confirm here. You can also click confirm right here, which I'm going to do now. And then you will start to see that the next instruction for the robot is that it's going to need to type into this information into this particular field. Good. The next question, of course, is which information does it need to type into? So a couple of ways I can do that. First and foremost, I could hard code that into my parts. So if I know that I want to input the same information every single day, then I could hard code. But the beautiful thing that we're going to talk about right now is how can I dynamically do that? So remember that the information that we're going to type into this field is not manually typed. It is actually copy pasted from that Excel sheet. And because we already have the Excel feed open, you can see this by the green line that kind of runs alongside it. UiPath is automatically going to be able to find that. So as soon as you go with your mouse and you click this field, it will show you a couple of options. The option that we're going to be looking at right now is Excel. And in order to kind of make it very easy, we're just going to indicate it into Excel. So I click this particular button, and what it will do is it will open up the Excel sheet, which is what it's going to do right now. And I just need to select the input that I'm going to be using. And in this case, my input will be in cell number A2. It will automatically deduct that. So I just click with my mouse the info that I would like to get out of my Excel sheet. And then I'm going to be clicking confirm. And UiPath will do all the rest. So you will see in the screen right now that it's going to say, hey, I would like to have the information from your Excel sheet A2. Does that make sense so far for everyone? Good. Thanks for the confirmation. And then what we're going to be doing, and for the sake of time, I will show you that in a second. Next thing that we're going to be doing is that I type in my name. And in this case, I can also use my birthday, but it's the exact same step. But I can also just click the button. It also works without the birthday. So for the sake of time, let's use this, and we'll go towards the get name. Good. So the next activity, and in workflows, you always need to start thinking in terms of activities, is that you will need to get to do clicking a button. Also something that you want to make do very commonly in any kind of website is button clicking. So logically, that's already been included in UiPath. So the next thing that we're going to be doing is clicking a button. You actually already see it coming up. It's one of the most common activities. So same process is that I'm going to indicate in my browser which button do I want to click. In this case, it's get name. The anchor is also going to be right there. So we're going to say the get name part is what we would like to do. Good. Here I can define whether I would like to click it single or with my left mouse, but all of that is perfectly fine. Good. It's time to, for the first time, run our automation. So let me close the browser for a second and let me close the Excel sheet so you can see exactly what is happening. You also close this one. So note that now my browser is closed, the Excel sheet is closed, we just have the automation, and we're gonna, for the first time, try to see if our automation works. I hope it will. Obviously, this is a live demo. There can always be issues, I know from the past, but we're gonna assume that everything is going well. So basically, when I start to click the run button right here, you will start to see that it's going to open up the Excel sheet. It's going to then open up a browser. It's going to type my name into the browser. Then it's going to click the button, and then that will be as far as we are right now. So let's click run and see what happens. Good. So there we go. Good. I think the presentation, there it goes. Typing it in. You can see my hands right here. I'm not typing in anything. It automatically types it into the browser right now. And we are done. So it brings us back right away. So you will see that in 19 seconds, it completed this entire workflow. You will see a green bar right over here that says that your last run has been successful. So congratulations. Basically, this is if you press this button, this is the first time that you're actually building and running a robot. And all of these activities, you define them once, but they happened automatically. Good. Does that mean that we're done with our robot yet? The answer is obviously no, because remember that the last step in our robot is that the name that was saved into the oh, there we go. Give me a second. Different page. The name that was saved is going to need to be captured back into the Excel sheet. So the way that we're going to do that is by capturing this particular value. And the way that that works in UiPath is with a get text. So in our example, let me go back to the browser. Where is it? No, it's not this one. This is the one. So we need to get, as soon as I typed in my name and I click the button, I would need to get this text that we're seeing right here, and I would need to get that back into my Excel sheet. So let's see how we do that. Good. The activity that is doing that is the get text activity. That's something that you just kind of need to know. So we put that right after the get text, and we're once again going to indicate that on the screen. So in this case, we're going to start to see that this is the highlighted piece. The anchor is your unicorn name. That's very clear. And then we're going to click confirm. And we will start to see it. You will still start to see a red exclamation mark in the red top corner. Why do you think that would be the case? Anybody, any questions or any ideas? Let me put it that way. I see a quick question from Hokseng in the chat. I got an issue with the Excel add-in, unable to cast COM object while running the unicorn name project. Never mind, I will try to follow a presentation along later. So just a quick reminder for Hokseng, what you could try to do as a quick fix, go to Home, go to Tools, look for the Excel add-in, click uninstall and then install again. That is typically the quick fix in order to make this work. Hopefully that will help. Good, I see that Jivan is already kind of indicating the right answer. In this case, yes, we never indicated where do we need to store the information. And the way that we can do that is, again, by indicating it into Excel. So we're going to be using the exact same Excel spreadsheet because we're still in the open part around Excel. But instead of doing it this particular way, we're going to now set cell C2. And then we're going to click confirm, and then it will save the information right here. Good, and that's basically the last step to get our first automation up and running. So in these very simple couple of steps, it is opening up the Excel sheet. It's then going to go to the browser, enter all the information, and then save it into Excel sheet. And before I will run this robot, I will once again show everyone that the original Excel sheet that we have right here, the inputs file, does not have the output. So it does not specify my unicorn name. So let me close this. I will also close the browser just to make sure so that you can see that it actually is running. Let me close the browser as well. So the browser is closed. We're going to go towards UiPath, and now we're going to run it in order to kind of complete our first project. So it's going to run. You will see that it's coming up right now. There we go. Good, again, you can see my hands right here. I'm not doing anything. It's opening up the Excel sheet. Then it's going to go to the browser. It's typing it in right now. There we go. Oh, there it goes. My name is in there. It will click the button. It will retrieve the name, and it saved it into Excel sheet. It went so fast that you probably couldn't even see it. But in order to kind of show you how easy it is, let's go back towards that Excel sheet again. So I'm opening it up right now, and you will see that the form has been completed automatically, and my name is now in this right away. See that Mohammed Firdaus is saying that it works, so very good, Mohammed. That's what I'd like to hear. That's the benefit of doing these things live, so that everyone can follow along. Good, so this is your first project. This is your first automation that you're building. And although it's a very, very simple example, I always like this because I hope that for the rest of your life, you're going to remember that the first robot you ever built was your unicorn name, which is a very funny and very free and easy thing to remember for the rest of your life. Good. Let me pause here for a quick second to see if there are any questions, because in the next half hour, I'm gonna kind of make it a little bit more complicated. And we're gonna look at a more business example. Good, I don't see any questions in the chat, so I think everyone is good so far. So for our second demonstration, we're gonna be kind of ramping up our knowledge a little bit and also make it slightly more, I would say, useful for from a business kind of context. So let me show you the second key part. Good. In this part, we're going to make an actual use case, and this is coming, for instance, from a procurement department. So in this module, we're going to look at a more specific use case that is actually very much closer to what you would see in a real organization. So in the previous module, you see the recap. We just did this, so I'm going to move through this a little bit quickly. What is best practice? And again, you need, in order to build RPA solutions, you need good technology, but you also need to have knowledge and best practices on how do you set it up. So in order to begin a good project, before you start making anything in technology, it's always good practice to make sure that you are completing what is known as an automation or a robot plan. And that's what we're going to be looking at. Good, there's somebody on mute. Okay, let me connect to it. A robot path starts with good design. So in this case, we're going to be making a slightly more complicated example. And therefore, it becomes more and more important that you make an adequate design. And we call that structuring the right kind of robot path. In this case, second case that we're going to be doing together is we're going to automate supplier entry. So we're going to build upon what we learned in the previous module. But in this case, we're already going to make it slightly more realistic. So in this case, what we're going to be doing is we're going to assume that you are working in the procurement department and you've just onboarded a number of new vendors, and those vendor records need to automatically be put into your procurement system so that you can subsequently start sending them invoices. And you need to do this process every single week. The difficult part is that in some weeks, there might be 200 new suppliers that you would need to add. And the week after that, there might be only 5. So there's no fixed number of suppliers that needs to be added every single day. It can vary based upon demand, can vary based on seasonality, and it can be a lot in which you will need to do a lot of data entry, or it can be very little, so you don't know the amount of workload. So we're going to be building on the example that we did use previously. So we're going to again use a browser. The system for procurement is going to be browser-based. We're once again going to use an Excel sheet, but we're going to make it slightly more complicated as we now move along. So you need to know the knowledge that you learned before, but now we're going to ramp it up in terms of the next few steps. Good, let me show the particular website that we're going to be using right now. So I'll put this again into the chat for everyone, because then it's very easy to just click on it. And in this particular example, we're going to be using a demo procurement system. So it's a demo procurement system, and in this we can start adding new suppliers. Here you already start to see that instead of the unicorn project, it becomes a little bit more, I would say, advanced, and it becomes a little bit more like what a corporate system would look like. This website is also used for demonstration purposes and learning purposes. So that means that you can do a lot on this website. You can, for instance, add all new kinds of information, but as soon as you click refresh, everything is gone. So don't click refresh while you are building your workflow. Okay, that's a main thing to take into consideration. So in the real world, let's say that you have vendor management has onboarded, let's say 10 new suppliers. Somebody in the department would be tasked with adding those 10 suppliers into the overview. Very simple, like before, we have an Excel sheet with the new suppliers. So here we have different types of companies. So in this case, we have an engineering firm, we have Cybiant, we have a couple of other firms in Malaysia that we would like to add towards this part. They will have an internal name and external name. There might be a particular industry that they're in. So these are fields that you can add into the supplier system. Good, so the way that it works, if I need to add a new supplier, then I will click this button. It will bring me towards a pop-up form. Here I would add my new supplier. So I will do that right here. I'll type in the internal name, external name. I can add all kinds of other fields as well. And then I click save, and then you will see that this new supplier has been added within this system. I can do that for a new supplier as well. So I do demo company ABC. I have, again, demo company. I have also an industry I can select. Let's say a number of employees, 700. The date that the supplier starts to be active, we save it, and you will see that the next line is being created. Good. So what I would like to do in the second example is start to automatically add all of the suppliers that we're seeing here. And I would like to do this process, for instance, every single week, but I don't know how long this Excel list is going to be. So second part, I'm going to do the first key things easier or a little bit faster because we now know how to open a browser. We now know how to use an Excel sheet. So again, try to follow along with me. If I'm going too fast, hit the brakes. But since we have done this example in the previous exercise, I'm kind of gonna assume right now that you will know those first basic steps. Good, so let's see together how that would work in real life. So I'm just gonna refresh the browser for a second so that my environment is empty again. And I'm gonna then go into my workflow design. Good, so this project is done. I'm gonna go back towards my part, and I'm gonna start a new project right from scratch. And I'm gonna call this supplier project. And I'm gonna also add a name because I already have many supplier projects. So I say August 22, and the description is my second automation. In other words, we're going to start from scratch again. We're going to start with a blank canvas, which will give us the opportunity to completely start right from the beginning. Good. As you might remember, while the new environment is being created, the first few steps are exactly the same as what you've learned before. The first few steps is we're opening up the Excel sheet. We're going to be opening up the browser. We're going to navigate towards that particular website. And then we're going to be adding a particular supplier. So let me show you, and I'm going to very quickly reiterate what we've been doing in the first demo. And I'm going to be starting to do those steps again, just a little bit higher pace right now, because we already learned how to do that. So try to follow along with me. First thing that we're going to be doing is opening up the Excel sheet. So we'll have the Excel activity. I just need to indicate where the Excel is at. In my case, it's in the demo folder, and I have a list with suppliers. So I'm saying open right here. It's going to give me the same error message like before because the Excel sheet is open. So let me close that for a second. Then I'm opening it right here. So it now gives me the opportunity to use this Excel sheet. Second thing I needed was the browser. So I'm going to be using this particular browser. And instead of going towards the link with the unicorn name generator, we're now going to go towards the supplier system. So it's automatically capturing that. This is the screenshot again. And now we're going to be doing it, and I'm going to see it right over here. So it's detecting that it's Chrome, and it's the UiPath demo app that we're looking at right now. Next thing that I would need to do is in the browser, there's just one step that's different than last time. Is now, in this case, we're going to start with a new supplier. So before we do anything, we're going to start with clicking the new supplier button. So let me do that right away. I'm going to do a click, just like before. So we're clicking the new supplier button. It already becomes green. The anchor is in the middle, which is the new supplier text. So anchor has been set as well. So we're clicking that button. And then for the sake of the first example, I'm also going to be typing the information in. So I've now clicked this button and we'll open up this form. So what I'm going to be doing next is I'm going to be writing, let's say we'll do only the internal and external name into the fields. So very similar to before. First thing I will do is type into. I'm selecting which field I would like to type into. So in this case, it's internal name. The anchor is going to be the field right on top of it. So that's confirm. And the information I would like to put into that is indicated in the Excel. So I'm going to open up the Excel sheet. There it is. And I'm going to say that the first field is the energy company. So I'll click confirm. I'm going to do that again for the second field. So instead of just one field, now we're going to fill two. So we're using the exact same steps again. Clicking the anchor, I'm clicking confirm. So we now have internal name and external name. And then for the sake of the example, I'm just going to use the first two fields. But if you want to fill all fields, that's also perfectly fine. But I'm going to be clicking the save button afterwards. Good. So let me do that as well. We're using a click. Indicating the save button right here. And I set the anchor, and that's done. Good. So basically what I did now just a lot faster is that I've recreated the information from the first workflow. Is everyone following with me so far? Good. Thumbs up. Yes, that's great. Good. So now we're going to make it slightly more difficult, because at this stage, what we are doing, if I were to run this workflow right now, you would start to see that it actually works. So here it goes. You'll start to see that it's coming up. There it goes. Let's see what happens. It's opening up the browser. It's gonna click the new supplier button. Let's give it a second. Don't think it's going fast enough, so might be something wrong. Should be going faster, so let me stop this. Yeah, so something went wrong. Something was not correct right here. So let me see if we skipped anything. We definitely skipped anything. You can see it right here because we forgot to type into the value in the Excel sheet. So that's why it's going to give an error. So I did it a little too quick. So the second field I forgot to indicate. So now it's there as well. So that's why it's always good to do the test runs so you can see if something in your workflow is not completely working well. So give me a moment to do this again. I'll close the browser also for consistency, and we will run it again. Good, so now it seems to be working. The Excel sheet is being opened up. I can see that it's moving towards the browser right now. And there we go. It does that. It opens the supplier form. Again, I'm not doing anything. It's automatically completing the fields. Then it will go towards the OK button, and we're done. Good, so this is very similar to what we've done so far. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to introduce a little bit more advanced automation, because in real life, we typically don't know how many of these fields are going to be in our Excel sheet, so we need to do that dynamically. So if you think about your workflow a little bit more in depth, is what you're going to be seeing is, let me open up it right here. What you're going to be seeing in your workflow is that the process for every single supplier is exactly the same. And that process will start with the fact that you're clicking new supplier, you're doing data entry, and then you're saving. So from a workflow perspective, if you think about that a little bit more deeper, is that the 4 steps that you see in the middle, adding new supplier all the way until save, is done over and over and over again. For every single line in your Excel, your automation and your robot would need to fill in those particular steps. So let's make that a little bit more complicated. So in order to do that, in automation, there's a very famous approach, or very easy approach, I should say, and that is a for each loop. And in this case, what we would like to do is run through all of the rows in our Excel, because remember that our Excel has a number of different suppliers. So in this case, we would like to loop through Excel rows. So in this case, we're going to be using the for each Excel spreadsheet. And I'm going to drag and drop that right here. Would that then work? Now, the answer is obviously no, because we would like to do each of these activities a number of different times. So it means that everything that is in this browser would need to be repeated within the for each loop. So let me go right over there. And what I can just do is I can drag and drop it into this particular field. And then we need to do some configuration, because remember that at this stage, we have just selected the fields A2. So if I were to run this automation, besides the errors that it's obviously going to give me, is what it would do is that it is going to add every time fields A2 and B2. And that's not what we want, because then it's going to enter the same supplier over and over again. So we would need to configure this workflow a little bit more in detail. And again, we're now slightly moving into some more complicated topics. So the way that this works is that we're going to get started with each row will be given a particular name. And we're going to say that this row is going to be within a particular range. We first then need to indicate whether this row, or whether this Excel sheet has headers. And that's, in this case, definitely the case. There's a header on the first row. So we're going to say that it has headers as well. So let me do that in more detail. So we're going to indicate this in Excel. Good, and there we go. Still giving me error right here. So let's see what happens. Each row is going to be the same as the project. So we're going to save it. We reference this as Excel. And then for every type into, we are going to make it dynamically. So instead of the current row, why it's not doing this? Give me a quick moment. Here it is. So what it wants to know is which sheet, so which sheet it's going to be. So here, apparently I need to close the Excel sheet first. So we want to have only sheet 1. So if you open up the Excel sheet again, there can be multiple tabs and you need to indicate which tab is actually gonna. So we only have one tab right here, so we're just going to be using sheet 1. So that's the first configuration what we need to do. We also need to add has headers, otherwise it's not going to be clear that this is the case. Next, the configurations that we would need to do is that we don't want to have the fields static. So we're going to change that. And what you're going to see is now that instead of Excel, there will be a new current row element. And this current row is going to give you an indication of where are we compared to the current row. And that will make it very easy in order to do that. So we're going to need to close the Excel sheet again, otherwise it doesn't work. So instead of using this, we're going to go to current row, and then you will start to see that it will automatically detect the column names. And here, in this case, we're looking for the internal name, so I'm going to select the first one. So what it now does is that it's going to indicate dynamically for each row which value is then in the column internal name. And then, for instance, if we're in the second row, it's going to look for the second internal name. And for the third row, it's going to look for the third internal name, etc., etc. Same as what we're going to be doing for the second part, and that is the external name. So we'll need to reconfigure that as well. The save button will still be the same. And again, now my workflow does not show any errors again, so I'm going to save it. I'm going to close the browser. And then we're going to run it. Let's see if this works correctly. Good, there we go. Good, it's going to give me some kind of an Excel error. So let me have a quick look at why that's happening. Oh, it's still running, sorry. Good, so it's opening up Excel. It's going to open up the browser right now. You start to see that it starts to enter the first company, then the second company, and then it will do that again. So this workflow is not 100% correct yet. Can anybody in the chat explain what is happening and why it's not 100% correct yet? There's one thing that we forgot. Browser refresh. Very good. And that's the mistake that I mentioned right away. Every time, this is a demo environment. So basically every time you're opening or refreshing the browser, all of your data is going to be gone. So we need to change the workflow in order to accommodate that. So let me stop the current process. I can do that in the bottom. Let me stop that. So what I didn't do well is that I should have put the for each loop after the browser has been opened, because otherwise, because this is a demo environment, it's going to do that. So let me see if I can quickly change that. So I'm gonna put this outside of the loop. Let me see if I can do that quickly. Good, so I'm putting it outside the Excel sheet right here. Then I'm gonna change my for each loop into the browser part. Let me put it right here. So what I'm doing right now, instead of running the for each loop and opening the browser every single time, I'm gonna run the for each loop while the browser is open. So the only other things I need to do is copy or drag and drop all of these back into the for each loop. Good, and this should solve the problem. I kind of explained it in the beginning, but then forgot again about the browser refresh. Good, so let me, hopefully that will solve the problem. Close everything, save it, and we're running it again. Good, there we go. Hopefully it works, because we're slowly getting towards the end of the workshop. So hopefully this final piece will showcase what it's supposed to be doing. So yeah, you start to see that it's opening up the browser again. Excel is already open, as you can see in the bottom. We're now going to move towards the new supplier part. We're adding the first one. It's done, and there it goes for the second supplier. So it looks like it's working. There's around 7 or 8 rows, so this is going to take a little bit of time. But you now start to see that in a very sequential way, it's going to go through all of the lines into your Excel spreadsheet, and it's going to be adding all of the data row by row by row. And this makes it very easy, makes it very useful and very simple to actually get started and very quickly automate data entry processes within the number of seconds. Whereas in normal situations, it would take a person probably a couple of minutes to complete all of this. So we're almost done. It just goes through all the different suppliers that are in the sheet. But you see that without doing anything, the robot is taking over the computer and is doing all of this information and all of this work. So you could literally go get a cup of coffee while your browser is doing all of the work. And before you get back, it has done it. So the whole process now took 1 minute, 33 seconds. There are ways to speed that even further up, but because this is an attended version, this is actually quite a good score as well. Good, ladies and gentlemen, that is as far as we are going to take it for today. Note that in your course materials that I provided to you, there are still a number of other examples that you could add. I didn't come to it today, but there is also in module 3 one more way to make it more complicated. So in module number 3, what you could do is you could also build in conditional logic. You can actually also see that into the Excel sheet. Because in many cases, you also then would like to add a supplier number. Or for instance, if a supplier is already in your system, to kind of say, well, this is a duplicate entry. The descriptions of that next steps are in module number 3 for those of you who are interested. If you need support from me later onwards, by all means, feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help you with any of that. Good, ladies and gentlemen, we're slowly getting towards the end of our session together. Before I end, I just wanted to ask if everyone found this a very useful session, whether it was worth your time, because that's a very important question to me. Another key thing that I would like to point your attention to is that if you're interested in learning more about automation, note that's still a couple of months out, but there is going to be our next Automation Days event, which is a free event. And you can sign up for Automation Days on our website. It's free. You're going to learn from all kinds of experts around automation best practices. There will be more in-depth workshops from speakers from UiPath. You will also see that there's going to be workshops. Here you can see me again. So if you want to learn more around automation and get involved, or have a whole day of industry experts doing all kinds of workshops like today, by all means, feel free to sign up for this event. It's completely free. Just click the register now button. I will put the link into the chat again, because that's going to be a useful spend of your time if you want to learn a little bit more around this. For those of you who are interested to actually start using this in your company, note that you can always request a free demonstration, as well as what we refer to as our discovery workshop. So if you think, well, hey, I'm inspired today to learn something more, I want to show this in the rest of my company and get a bit of a feeling of what this could mean for us. Note that this is also completely free of charge. You can also request a discovery workshop where we will come on site and basically explain a little bit more around this. So if you're interested in that, fill in the form which is on this website, and then we can discuss that in more detail. Good. Are there any questions so far? Was this a useful workshop? Good. I see a lot of thumbs going up, so I hope that means that it was useful. I also have a quick survey that I'm going to ask everyone to quickly fill in, which is something we're always doing at the end of every shop. So if you have any questions, if you would like to see any part, then we're going to show some of these parts. So give me a quick moment to put that into the chat as well. Survey. So yeah, I really hope that in a very short period of time, I know it's only 2 hours, but that you learn a lot more around what automation is and what it can do. I know it's a crash course, but at least in 2 hours ago, you probably didn't know how to build a robot, and now you do. So that is already quite good. So here's the link for the survey. Again, I will put that in, so it would be great if you could put that. Jeevan is asking, will you be sharing the recording and materials shared in today's workshop? The answer is yes. So the materials you can still have access for 60 days. So make sure that you use the link, and then you can download everything. We will also make the recording available to everyone who participated, so you can expect that as well. Good. With that, I would like to thank everyone for their time. I know it's always a bit of a time commitment, but I hope it was worth your time. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope to see you back again on any of our future events and be there to learn more around what automation can do in order to change the world. Thanks so much for joining today. Look forward to seeing all of you again later.